something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate real stories. Making a point. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I'm excited about this new year. It's 2015. Yay! I hope it's a better year. As you know, if you're a faithful follower, I had a rough year last year with my secretary embezzling my money, renovating an old house to turn into an office, and those guys kept stealing. So it was a rough year, but I'm healthy and I'm glad to be here in 2015. Thank you. And thank you for watching. I have three great men in my studio tonight. We're going to do a different little format. You know, at the end of last year, there were a lot of police shootings, and we were upset about it. All around the country, we were upset about it. It was frustrating. It was sad as a black mother of a 20-year-old. She was 19 then. She turned 20 in December. And it's just sad being a criminal defense lawyer watching a system of black kids who are in trouble, white kids and Hispanic kids, but black kids disproportionately in trouble as compared to the population in which we encompass, and the hopelessness and not being able to do anything for my community to help other than to try to represent them as best that I can and to make them understand the criminal justice system. You know, I started this show because of the disconnect between what people expect from the system and what actually happens in the system, because people just don't know. And it's interesting, so many people are in a system that they don't know anything about. Tonight, we're gonna vent though. Tonight, we're gonna vent because Black Lives Matter too. And we have got to make that our mantra. Black Lives Matter too. I'm not saying that to depreciate anybody else's life. White lives matter, Hispanic lives matter, Asian lives matter, all lives matter. But somehow it appears that black lives are not as important in our society. And a lot of it comes from us as black people, when we kill each other and rob from each other and degrade each other through song, through action, through not trying to be the best that we can be. And I recognize that, and I hope that something will happen that we will try to do a better job. I try to do my part and encourage people around me to do theirs. However, we still have got to say Black Lives Matter too, T-O-O. With that, I'm going to start with Durrell Douglas. Durrell, please introduce yourself to my audience. Since he's a first-time guest on my show, and thank you for coming. And tell us who you are, Durrell.
Thank you so much. My name is Durrell Douglas, born and raised in Houston, Texas. Some friends and I were at one of the rallies after the no bill of Officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, and we decided to turn that take all that energy and turn it into action. So we founded the Houston Justice Coalition.
Wow. So approximately when was Houston Justice Coalition started?
It was the weekend of Thanksgiving.
All right.
The weekend of Thanksgiving. So that Tuesday before Thanksgiving was the rally, and we're out there. And one of the things we started at McGregor Park, and we ended up marching all the way to that Denny's on Southmore and 288.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, the energy was high. And, you know, I've been to rallies before, I've been to protests before, but something was different this time. There were people out there who I never would have thought I would have seen at a civic engagement, at a peaceful protest. There were white people, black people, old people, young people, Asians, the Indian community, the Asian Pacific community. I mean, so many people, and I knew, you know, we knew that this was different and that we had to do something about it. So over the weekend of Thanksgiving, we came up with a list of, we started with 7. We wanted them to be tangible, winnable asks. We wanted, you know, there's the big uproar across the nation, but we knew that there were things that we could do locally, that you could identify the goal and come up with a plan to get there. And so that's what we did.
Wow, that's fantastic. Why do you think Black Lives Matter?
I think Black Lives Matter because Dr. King said, you know, we should be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. It's sad to say, but we have not reached a point in the United States of America where we're judged by the content of our character. We are judged by the color of our skin and not the content of our character. You could see that with the constant no bills that are happening with Houston Police Department and police departments across the nation. You can see that with the way that we invest in our local infrastructure. Right now, they're working on Kirby on one side of town and they're working on Cullen on the other. Both are in the CIP, but they're treated differently because they're different people that live in those neighborhoods. And bringing it on into criminal justice, the same hand that massages the scalp of the white officer or the officer in general slaps the young man across the face. And so we have to do something about it. We will do something about it, and we're doing it right now.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I'll come back to you. Cedric Smith is also a part of Houston Coalition. And tell me who you are, Cedric. And thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, Vivian. I got involved with the Houston Justice Coalition. Being middle-aged, I happen to be 45 years old.
Even though you don't look it.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you. But what Durrell talks about is that the energy after hearing about all the no bills and so forth, what happened with Ferguson, I'm sitting on the couch getting all these Facebooks and texts in regard to forums and town hall meetings that were going on, and I decided, you know, I'm going to start showing up. No longer am I going to sit aside and just see the criminalization of the black skin continue the way it is continuing. And when I went to one of the town hall meetings, I kind of found my voice of activism, if you will. And with that voice, I was trying to find a conduit or a justice conduit to help me get that voice out there. And I happened to see Durrell and Shakira, who happen to be the founders of Houston Justice Coalition. And I said, I want to be a part of that group because, like you said, they have tangible, specific goals and asks that they're trying to achieve, and they will achieve, not just through protests, but actually with getting in the trench work of meeting with council members, meeting with chief of police, meeting with the DA, and trying to come up with a collaborative effort in finding solutions.
Good. I like it. I like it. I like it. Great answer. Okay, Danny Sneed, my often co-host and opinionated brother that's been all around the world. He's working very hard. Maybe
with the Path to Freedom?
With the Path to Freedom at St. John's United Methodist Church. And he is experienced with the criminal justice system, so he can talk from the inside out and the outside in. And so tonight, he will give his opinion as to why do Black Lives Matter, too.
Well, thank you again, Vivian. It's always an honor to be on the show. And you have a great platform. We met because we're both members of St. John's Methodist Church, downtown Houston, Texas, where Pastor Rudy Ramos and Juanita Ramos is the pastors there. I'm a part of a prison ministry there called the Path of Freedom. It's a reentry program. It's a spiritually highly structured, positive, pure group that we meet men and women coming from prison. And with all the firestorms around the country, most of them involve black males. And so what we're trying to do is use tools to change not lives, but lifestyles. Because I believe the transformation comes from not in doing something different with your life, but doing something different with your lifestyle. I believe if you don't create your own goals, then surely you'll end up following somebody else's agenda sooner or later. So what we try to do is set that standard, be that example, be that mentor, that role model, that support group. In recovery, in which we find that a lot of people deal with drugs and alcohol, there's this affirmation that says there's nothing more therapeutic than one person helping another person that shares that same affliction. So my affliction, if you want to call it that, was returning back into the prison system more than once. I've been able to break that cycle since 2007, and I haven't found a reason to return. So using that as a platform, carry that message to men who return from prison through the St. John's Prison Ministry. And the director of the Path to Freedom is Dr. Jonathan Chisholm. He's the founder of it. And we meet on Mondays. We just moved to Tuesdays.
Oh, really?
From 5:30 to 7. So if you have a family member, anybody here in the local Houston, Texas area that's getting out of prison soon or has just recently gotten out, I invite you to share this information with them and come out and hear what we have to offer. And what it is a lot of love and a lot of hope. We do have resources like cell phones and job directions. We point you to the people that are expert in finding jobs, like Goodwill, Workforce Texas. We count a partnership with these people, so we send them there to you. If we send a guy there, they know they come from our group. But their expectations is that we kind of built them up, prepared them to maybe to go on a interview or prepare a resume. And you, Vivian, have been a great part for the last couple of years in helping us here have a platform to talk about that and give us a wider range of audience and people to reach. And that I thank you for.
I thank you. Well, you've explained why Black Lives Matter, but you know about all of the no bills and the police shootings around the country, including in Houston. And how do you feel as a person that could have happened to, but it didn't? How do you feel about the way the criminal justice system is treating black men who've been killed by white officers?
Well, at first I wanted to get angry, but I know that my emotions weren't going to make anything change. So what I started doing is trying to educate myself and listening to the pundits on both sides and see what was the argument. And not what was the complaint, but what solutions were people offering. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they were saying is like body cameras and retraining the officers, which is these officers have been so unsupervised and so unregulated for so long that a pattern has developed that it's just, to them, it's business as usual. To kill someone, they know there's no accountability. So, and it never has been. And you look at the history, they're getting away with it so much that when they pull their gun, they're not thinking, I could lose my job, I could go to prison. There's some type of accountability that could come along with this. I believe that it just has gone on so long that unless the federal government enforces some type of statute, some type of laws, because talking about it is not going to change anything. Mm-hmm. It has to be something concrete that if you do A, B, and C automatically happens. Mm-hmm. And we already learned from you that the grand jury process is not that vehicle to decide what happens when an officer is involved with a shooting.
Right. I've talked a lot about grand juries, that's for sure, over the years, even before it was relevant to this situation. Now, I saw you taking notes. I was going to pose another question, but if you have comments on what he said, you can.
I was just going to say, just to piggyback on what you said that you were angry, but you decided to turn that into something, to benefit it. A quick story on October the 8th of last year, about a month before, I think everything happens for a reason. So about a month before we started Houston Justice Coalition, I was sitting at the park eating a sandwich and reading a Malcolm Gladwell book. And when I pulled up, I saw 2 minor patrol officers over there at the park, but I thought nothing of it. Sit down, pull out my book, and then I look up, and now the 2 officers are standing behind my car. And one of them,
day or night?
It's day. It's noon. This is noon. Okay. And I live not too far from Clayton Homes, in East Downtown, not too far from it. So that James Butte Park, which is right down the street. So I walk over, you know, because I've been told a lot for parking wrong or this or that. They have the 13-inch rule. So I go over and I'm like, oh, if they're about to tow my car, let me move, you know. So I walk over and I say, this is my car. Is there a problem? The officer looks at me and the very first question he asks is, what do you do for a living? I was stunned. I was stunned. Now keep in mind, you know, I was wearing a T-shirt, basketball shorts. I probably had on a hat, you know, backwards because it was time for a haircut like it is today. But I was stunned. So he asked me, what did I do for a living? I don't remember if I answered or not. You know, they went on sort of badgering me, and I'm sitting here like, wait, what's about to happen? I watched the first 48. Like, did someone call in and say there's a 5'5", very handsome young man that's accused of this, you know, this thing? You know, so like, am I about to go down? So my heart is beating and this and that. And I asked at one point, they asked me for my ID and everything, and they're running that, and I know I'm okay, but the whole thing is like, wow, like what's about to happen? So finally at the end, they give me my stuff back and they say, you know, Mr. Douglas, there's a lot of homeless people that hang around this park, and they said, you know, we're not used to seeing, I drive a 2-door convertible Lexus, right? I guess I'm black and 28, not supposed to drive that car. I know now. But
too late, I already have it. Can't give it back.
But that they felt justified in profiling me, and they said, well, you know, what if your car was stolen? I said, if the car was stolen, that's one thing, but what made you think it's okay to say, this doesn't look right? You know what I mean?
And you're right by your car.
And I'm right by my car.
I mean, why is it going to be stolen?
I'm right by my car.
You're just saying a lot of stereotypical things.
Exactly. So I go down the next day to do the internal affairs investigation, the complaint. It's notarized. You know, the lady is sort of, what color were their uniform? Do you remember, was the badge gold or silver? What color were their, I mean, really, like I did something wrong, but I still stayed through it, went through the whole process. My question is, what if I was a young man who had a city warrant, but I was going to TSU and I had a job, you know, at a retail store? You would have been arrested. I would have been arrested. I would have probably lost my job. You know, because you miss 2 or 3 days, no call, no show, you're done.
Right.
Now I got to drop out of school. I mean, we can't continue to have that. And it all started with that same racial profiling that Officer Juventino Castro used to racially profile Jordan Baker that led to his demise. Did you, in your fear and nervousness, did you notice the officer's name or badge number? I remembered one was, the female's name was Villanueva. I knew that she was a white female and that Villanueva, that stood out to me. Yeah. Number 2, I remembered one of the horses' names was Clyde, right? And they kind of look like Clydesdales, but I guess they're not really Clydesdales. So those are the 2 descriptions that I gave. And the investigating sergeant kind of asked, you know, well, I mean, you don't have any more, you know, any more description. I said, how many people riding horses, you know,
in this
Clyde,
territory, in this neighborhood,
in this territory with the last name Villanueva with brown hair, and then, you know, I mean, I gave very, and I don't know, they don't have 2,000 people on horses. It doesn't matter. They know exactly where everybody's dispatched to. They know where they are. Exactly. They called into your ID. Exactly. So that's all on their dispatch. And then the next day, you know, and I put it on Facebook. Actually, that day I was like, do the Mounted Patrol officers wear body cams? Because it's not only what they asked me, but the way they asked me. I felt like it was 1960 in Selma. I mean, it was like, what you do for a living. You know, I mean, whoa. And that's the part, I think, there are 2 things that a few things that have come out of these discussions for me, especially on my show at the end of last year, is that our white brethren don't know that the black people are afraid of the police. Because all of my white friends will say, like on the Michael Brown case, he was a big black guy who put his hand in there. And I started realizing these are guys that I respect, white guys I respect, that I think are cool. And the way they all, but that's what they're thinking of themselves in fear, and it's that fear part of black people. What I realized my white friends didn't understand is that black people are scared of the police. We feel like it's stupid, and that's a stupid thing to say, but they don't think that we're afraid of the police. They actually think that we're going out bucking the police. They don't realize that as soon as a police officer approaches us, we are scared to death, and no matter how bad we are. And I have to remind my white brethren that, think of
mass murderers. Think of black kids who rob and kill at grocery stores. But when they are caught, they go in quietly.
Right.
If they go and serve a warrant somewhere, they rarely have shootouts with the police. That's when they should shoot somebody out if they're coming to pick up somebody that just did a capital murder. It's like when what's our brother that's always turning people in for capital murder? Quan Alex is always doing. I mean, he does it quietly. He turns them in, but the police go and do it too. Think about that. Those guys are the ones that should be doing shootouts with the police, and they don't even do it. And so what our white brethren don't know is we've had a culture in our households where our fathers, when we had fathers there, in my generation, I'm 56, we had fathers there. Whether they were any good or not is another story, but they were there. And they were afraid of the police. My father was born in 1919. He watched people get lynched and beat up and killed by police in Louisiana. He was raised in Louisiana. And he did World War II. So I'm just saying, so we grow up hearing these stories. And so when we encounter the police, we're afraid too. Even badasses are afraid of the police, okay? Because the police are known to be able to kill you, dump your body in the back, and nobody ever knows. So that's the one time that you feel powerless. So we have to keep, in y'all's Houston Justice Coalition, when you're educating people, make sure young people are not afraid to say to their brethren, we're afraid of the police. And we proceed with caution with the police. And so we're trying to rule out those renegade police that are harassing people that they know are afraid of them. There was no reason to harass him. There was no reason to harass you.
And even further, at the end...
Hold on, guys, hold on. Oh. Hold that thought. I have a phone call. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Please state your comment.
Is this Vivian?
Yes, sir.
I'm on. Wow, this is a beautiful show, and it's impacted me so greatly. What I can say is that I have unique experience with dealing with the Harris County criminal justice system. As a black man, I've just turned 50 years old. But I have a college degree from the University of Houston in business marketing. I was academic also at this conference, National Honor Society with a congressional endorsement to attend West Point. So I'm intelligent. I can read. I'll put it that way.
You sound intelligent.
Thank you. I've been indicted 5 times in Harris County. What I can tell you is this. I've never been convicted of a felony. It was by the grace of God, and also, well, first of all, I wasn't guilty. But that's beside the point. As far as all the time that I spent in Harris County Jail, I listened to the young man talking about being harassed by the police officers who was thinking about who did it. Well, I can say this, and I can give my name on television right now. My name is Percy Hines III.
And Percy, call me after the show so I can get you on to tell your story. Because really on my show, if this is the first time you've watched it, people tell their personal stories. But I'm starting my new year off with us venting about what's been going on. But next week it'll be someone telling their story, and that's what we normally do. So Percy, I have another call holding. So if you can quickly get to your point.
I will get to my point with this just one issue. Because as I fight my cases in court, I'm what's called a problem child in the court system.
Right.
Even when I'm incarcerated. Here's a letter. They responded to me. Your complaint regarding speaking with your attorney at court has been received in the grievance office. Your complaint is not a grievable issue. Harris County provides private attorney-inmate visitation areas in which confidential information can be discussed. It is up to you and your attorney to utilize these areas as is necessary to discuss your case. It is your choice, and I was in bold writing, whether to discuss your case at court or request that your attorney discuss issues with you in the private attorney-inmate visitation area that have been provided. The grievance board will take no further action in this matter. Well, I had several copies of those placed all around the jail. I was found incompetent to stand trial and sent to Vernon State Hospital because I would not confer with my attorney amongst a lot of other inmates and with the district attorney there to incriminate me and violate my attorney-client privilege.
All right, and I appreciate that, and it's a long story, and we're talking about why Black Lives Matter tonight, so I need you to stay on topic, but this is what I'll do. Please contact me. You can Google me, Vivian King, call my office, and I will set a Wednesday night when it's all about you, and we can talk about that and the process and what you can do in the future, okay?
I appreciate it, and good luck with everything you're doing.
God bless you. Thank you. Next caller, please. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Hello.
Hello.
I like the topic, but I like that caller too.
We're going to get him on so we can tell his whole story, okay? Because we can't do it quickly.
This is my plan, Vivian.
Hey, I miss you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and happy birthday.
Thank you.
This is my plan. Is it when Texas becomes the 51st state or commonwealth to legalize it, make sure, when we do it in Texas, make sure you include that police officers can smoke, because the drug war has been used to divide us all, and they have a big financial stake in it. And how do you diffuse that? You allow them to smoke, on off hours, of course, but you include police officers, DEA agents, and see what that does. Great topic, and I'll enjoy the show. Thanks.
Thank you for calling. We're going to take one more call before we get back to my guest. So, caller, please stay on topic. We're talking about why Black Lives Matter too. Also, thank you for calling. What's your comment, please?
Oh, no, you told me to stay in line. I wasn't trying to get back on.
No. I want you to call me after hours, so like tomorrow, so I can schedule a Wednesday for you to come on. Okay?
Oh, okay. All right then.
Yeah,
I'll
hang
do
up.
that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Do I have another caller on? Okay. All right. So, Durrell, so you made a complaint, and that was in October. How far has your complaint gone?
It ended up when you sit down with the sergeant who takes your complaint. She basically said, we have up to 180 days to get back to you with our decision. So I said, okay, is there a number that I can call to know where we are with the steps, or is there any kind of, it was no, 180 days. So I left there, and I signed up to speak at City Council that Tuesday, and I was going to ask at City Council how we could have a system where people make complaints and you find nothing until 180 days.
6 months.
6 months. So that day, their government affairs or public affairs person who calls through the list called me and said, hey, you're speaking on HPD, and I gave him my whole story. Now, this is, keep in mind, let's see, if this is Tuesday, this is now maybe a couple of weeks have went by, and I still have heard absolutely nothing. So that Tuesday morning, a couple of weeks have passed. He says, I'm sure someone will get to you soon. 2 hours later, I get a call saying that they want to schedule for me to come in and talk about mediation options and stuff like that. So we ended up going to mediation, and picture this. It's a table just like this, where you would be the mediator, the two officers are right there, and I'm here, and the lady who was the mediator used to be a police officer herself.
Oh,
wow.
And she would ask a question like, so in your opinion, what do you feel could have happened, better? And, I would give my answer, she would write it down, and then she would ask them each the same question.
Was it tape recorded?
It wasn't tape recorded. And when she would ask them the same question, she would take what they said, polish it, and say, so what you said was...
Oh, okay.
And I'm just like...
Really?
Wow. And so at the end, when she asked me, like, what did I want from it, I said, you know what, ma'am? It would be nothing for them to get a slap on the hand. I said, but the problem is it's much bigger. Yeah. I said, did my report go in front of the Citizens Review Board? No, they don't meet regularly, and they don't review all cases. I said, so let's just say if these two officers have been doing this consistently for 3 months and each have 10 complaints, there's no way for us to track that. And she just looked at me and recommended that I come to a PIP meeting. I think they call it PIP. Yep, yeah, PIP. Come to a PIP meeting, and said that I really seem like someone that should get involved in the, and I'm just like, I don't need the condescension. The system is broken.
So was there anything about the way they approached you and treated you and profiled you and scared the heck out of you?
Right. It was all of that. It was,
but did they say anything about the way they they had citizen interaction with you?
So basically, here was their explanation. They came in with a report from all the different parks and showing how like
What's that have to do with you?
Exactly. So they went through all of that.
See, and that's the problem, and that's why we have to deal with this Black Lives Matter. Is because in white America and in the court system and the jurors who are the system, the prosecutors who are the white system, they feel like all they have to do is say, I'm in a high crime area, he's black and he's scary.
Right.
And so that's it. And so to us, that's profiling, that's hurtful, we're scared of you, but that's not what they hear. They see black neighborhood, you're scary, I'm scared of you, you should understand that. And if you've been inconvenienced for a moment because I'm scared of you and I just want to get a handle on who you are, that shouldn't matter to you. And if I have to shoot the shit out of you because of it, I got to shoot you down because of it, that shouldn't matter either because I'm scared of you. But that's why I want you to say one of the ways we can combat it is to say, I'm scared of you too. And that's one thing, you know, as a black man, y'all can't tell people you're scared of them. You understand what I'm saying? But somehow, y'all have got to figure out a way to convey that. And you got to start each meeting, middle each meeting, end each meeting saying, we are afraid of the cops with the guns who are harassing us for no reason, okay? We want you to, and we would feel better if you equally harass white kids in parks, because they live in Heights. Heights is not all good. It's still half bad, half good. But I bet you if you were out there and you were a white guy at lunch, they wouldn't come up there harassing you. And see, that's where Black lives don't matter. It's systemic, but it's up to you guys. You have got to start letting them know they matter. And this is my suggestion now. We have 30 more minutes, and we can talk about whatever you want to, but this is what I want you guys in your organization to meditate on. And you hear me say this at every rally, and I come to all of them I can. There's a next political cycle this year.
Yes.
And it's the city political cycle. It's the mayor. It's the city council persons. Don't ask those same BS questions to them. You ask the mayor candidate, what type of police officer chief are you going to appoint? Is he going to enforce black sensitivity? Is he, I mean, y'all need to start making a list of questions. If it's top 10, top 5, whatever, at least top 10 issues to ask to every politician, because this year is only for city council people, and they are the ones who decide and who their police chief is going to be and what type of diversity training they're going to have. Because one of the things you've got to make them do and fit this into your 10, we want black kids and black men to be treated like white kids and white men. This is where Black Lives Matter too. Okay, because if 5 black 18-year-olds get stopped and 5 black white 18-year-olds get stopped, the white ones are gonna get tickets, the black ones are gonna get put out of their car and they're gonna search for dope. The 5 white kids got dope in their car too. They got marijuana, which kids don't even really think is a drug, and then all of them have drugs. And they all and we've got to impress upon our elders, which is me included. I know because I have a 20-year-old daughter who went to Lamar High School, and I know that the white kids were smoking more marijuana, dropping more pills than the black kids were. The black kids were too, because my daughter got caught smoking weed. I'm not gonna say she didn't, because she did. And when I was in school, I tried to experiment with weed too. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that. Right, I was in San Antonio, but cops didn't bother us for things like that. So I'm just saying, you have got to say this. If you're going to take the black kids out the car and search them and say their car smell like weed, take the white kids out the car so their cars smell like weed and search them too. Equal treatment to equal races. That's what y'all got to do. And that's the thing that's different, because when these judges see all black people coming in and all their cars smell like weed, they really believe that that's the only people smoking weed, even though they know that their kids smoke weed, okay? Because they put their kids in rehab. I have all kind of white judge friends who put their kids in rehab from the Woodlands, from school, but for some reason, they don't think that they got that weed in their car, although they found the weed in the house. You know, there's no connection. Y'all have got to make that connection. You know, you've got to make these people say, you got to ask the police chiefs and the mayors to look at statistics on how many black kids are being stopped and searched versus how many white kids and Hispanic kids and Asian kids, when they get stopped on a regular traffic violation, are being searched. And you need to have a report of those statistics so that y'all can see if y'all have a systemic problem, because you can see it by the numbers. You already know the population of blacks, Hispanics, Asians. We want to know how many people are being stopped. Not just stopped, but stopped and searched.
Right. And I was listening to you, and I was just like, the numbers don't lie. We only
But we got to play with those, and we got to keep throwing those numbers in
and
people's
have that
faces.
conversation and make them address the issue. Let's look at the numbers. Instead of saying it's like what the guy tried to say, you know, we use it as a race baiting. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to race bait. We ask, let's look at real numbers.
And then ask why. Let's take a call. Caller, you've called Truth and Justice with Vivian King, and I want you to tell me your comment, please.
Yeah, good evening, Vivian and brothers. My comment is, I understand what you're saying. You have a valid point, Vivian, with getting the statistics and trying to give evidence. They already know what it is. This is a systematic imprint on the psyche of America. It's not, they know exactly what they're doing. Body cameras is not going to make a difference because they have a superior confidence. I don't want to turn it to it like, but I'm going to just tell you how I feel about it. They have a superior complex over us. They know us. They know. I mean, they know the system and everything that happened to us really wasn't that long ago. So you take 200 and some years of treating a certain people a certain way, and then you let them free, and then they benefited. A lot of the what we call white people today benefited off of what happened back then. So now, back then it used to be visual. I mean, they just let you know. You know what I mean? It is what it is. There wasn't no hiding it. And you don't walk down the streets. You don't even be outside or whatever. Now, they can't, come out and just say it like that. So now, now it's in the courts. And now the Ku Klux Klans are now policemen. So I don't know what the answer to the problem is, but it's way deeper than just, the color of our skin and stuff like that. It's just been going on a long time, and I don't know how, I just think it's going to be the creator himself have to bring us about this because it's a systematic problem been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And these judges and even the government and our local politicians and stuff like that, we can control some of our neighborhoods, but we just can go so far. So
I understand, and I always appreciate your comment and your thought-provokingness. And this is our opportunity to vent tonight, and you're venting, and I appreciate your venting. There are some problems that have no solutions, but you are civically engaged by always watching the show, always having your comments. Just keep communicating to the 2 or 3, 5, 10, 20 people in your circle to vote, to be engaged. I haven't updated my website, my personal law website, vivianrking.com, in about 3 years. But in the next month, I will update it. And I'm going to start putting a link on there next time to all of the criminal courts, the 37 criminal courts and the federal courts, too, that do criminal cases. So at least you know who your judges are. And maybe I'll even talk about, put little resumes on who they are, who's married to who's married to cops. Now, some people think that that's intrusive, but you need to know. Wouldn't you want to know if your judges are married to cops and stuff? And so what lawyers are facing, and all lawyers are facing it. It's not just black lawyers or white lawyers. Everybody's facing it. So you can understand that when these political times come, you need to get your butt out there and vote. And I know you do, but I'm just saying we've got to do this. And so since we have a new coalition, we need to, and they're rallying, they're getting together, they're young and energetic, because like Durrell said, he's 28. And so,
are you going to run for
maybe,
office?
Maybe by political time this time, and then when judges are running next time in 2016, they'll have 500,000. Let me tell you, when I run, I only lose by 100,000 votes. Democrats lose by 100,000 votes. And thank you for calling. I'm going to keep talking.
All right.
But we lose by 100,000 votes. There are more registered Democrats in Harris County than Republicans, but the Democrats don't come out to vote. And so if I could just get 100,000 to come out to vote, 100,000 to come out to vote who registered, of the 500,000 who don't vote,
right?
We can win and change things because you want a voice at the table. I'm too old now. I'm not doing it anymore. But I am going to help the younger lawyers run. I bought an office, a little house. I'm renovating it so I can give fundraisers for them. I can do for them what they didn't do for me. And to let them understand our political machine. And I want us, your group, to learn year by year. Spend all your time learning about local politics this year, because that's what this is, the odd years.
And to piggyback off of what you just said, you talked about the next political cycle. We started with that in mind. So we're on a race to 1,000 to get 1,000 grand jury applications. But in order to be a grand juror, to apply, you also have to be a registered voter. So a group of us, I wasn't one of them, I had to go somewhere else, but a group of us went to that last DVR training that they had to become
now,
registered
don't use
voter.
acronyms on here. Some of my people don't know what those are. They don't vote, maybe.
Deputized
Deputy
voter registrar, which basically means these are people that can register others to vote.
Right.
Now, I've done nonprofit and C3, like get out the vote work, nonprofit get out the vote work before, and a lot of times the focus has been on the Latino community. And one of the conduits, or one of the issues, one of the agitators that they'll use a lot is immigration. You say immigration with a Latino family, they instantly understand. I believe that we will look back at this issue, this national issue, as the button to wake up, on the alarm clock for the black community. So everyone that signs up as a grand juror, we're also asking them to sign up and be a supporter. So we're getting their name, their zip code for city council races. Right. We're already, when we have town hall meetings, before our last town hall meeting, we had a phone bank right before, because we want to train people in the interim. That way, by the time October, November gets here, we are a machine.
And you got to guilt these somehow you've got to guilt your brethren, your age group, into voting. My age group, we're guilted into it. We're going to vote. I mean, we're going to vote if it rains, sleets, hails, because our parents, my mother had to sit on the back of the bus. Born in 1922. Daddy in 1919. They were treated like slaves. They could only be certain things. They had to go to colored, separate but equal schools. They had to go to land-grant schools. They didn't go to college. Some of them didn't graduate from high school. I think my daddy went to the 3rd grade. So, they always wanted better for us. So I don't care if it's raining, sleeting, hailing. My age group is going to vote, but we're a dying breed. And so without the influx of young black people voting, we can't do it, which is the incarcerated group. And remember, though, you can vote as long as you're not on paper. As long as you're not on parole, you can vote.
I went yesterday.
Now, let me just qualify that. If you're on felony probation, straight probation, while you're on probation, you can't. If it's deferred adjudication, you can vote, okay? So there's some fine line little differences. So, but you can vote immediately afterwards, okay? And so a lot of, I did a get out the vote registration in front of the courthouse a few years ago, and I got a lot of lawyers to do it. And we had old black men in there crying because they thought they couldn't vote because they went to prison in the 70s. Because people have told them if you went to prison, you can't vote, but you can. As soon as you get off parole, you can vote. As soon as you get off straight probation, you can vote. If you if you stole something or jacked somebody and you're on deferred adjudication, you can vote because you're not convicted. And but if you have a conviction and you're still under where you could go to prison, then you can't vote. But the day Danny gets off parole, he can vote. Just got to be registered.
And that's coming soon.
It's coming soon.
This year.
So keep that in mind, that we have to get people engaged. And as you make your issues of your body cams, not only do you want a body camera, but you want a policy for the body camera.
Exactly.
Not only do we want the dash cams, we have dash cams now, but the cops turn them on and off when they want to. And when they help the defense, they weren't working.
I think that's one of the big issues, too, is that, everybody was so rushed to say, get body cameras. But there's also a lot of, like you said, policy and procedures that should be in place that enforce that. What happens if the officer turns off the camera? Or what happens if we find out that X officer doesn't have the camera on when these specific tenants have been placed for us?
For example, Cedric, when they harassed him. Now, don't you think they would have turned their body cams off first?
Right.
Because they knew that he hadn't done anything.
Right.
He wasn't wanted.
Right.
He hadn't fit a description. They're about to just harass him and ask him who he is in the park. Right. So would they have their body cams on? No. If they can turn them on or off.
They'll strategically learn ways to communicate with you and dialogue with you out of the view of the...
And let me tell you something. When y'all start writing these things down and what you want, it's just bad policy. So we're not saying officers are always breaking the rules, but if they have units that are given to them to drive, but their body cams are always off or their dash cams are off, as a policy statement, HPD should fire them because they're not following the rules.
Right.
And that is the problem. And that's what we need to enforce.
Right.
Did you hear in the news where the officers that were Hispanic got fired for the ticket scam, but the other officers,
The white officers.
didn't keep their jobs? So
But look how blatant that is. That's because this system is so it's such a system of non-accountability, and we do what we want to do that they don't even see it.
Right.
They don't even see it.
They're also,
And then they'll say we're playing a race card. And
it's like, look,
but that's why you got to keep talking about it.
You know, it's not so much that all, we know that they come back with this and say all cops are not bad, y'all. It's not all. I don't want to say to them, look, there are parallel truths here. You do have good officers that are out there every day working hard and go home to their families and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But there's also a parallel truth that there's a disparity in how they are treating black color and brown color. That is a truth. Just like in medicine. I'm a doctor. There are disparities in how we treat black and white. This has been studied ad nauseum. We know the statistics. They are there.
They'll let us die sometimes. Exactly. They don't let the white
or we don't have as much pain as somebody else who is white per se, and so they get less pain medication.
Right.
But the instance where it comes to the criminality of the black and brown skin, the problem becomes that now you have a bullet that can kill somebody, and I can become a hashtag.
Right.
And that's a problem. Right. So with the Houston Justice Coalition, when you look at a Durrell who is 28 years old, you look at myself who's 45, and we want to say, oh, we're giving it to the Houston Justice Coalition, the young people's thing, the young people's movement. We all are needed in a collaborative effort for this change. You do your show, I'm getting involved, regardless that I'm 45 years old, I'm still scared of the police officer when I get stopped. I have nieces and nephews that I'm scared for. I have friends whose kids have been stopped who are straight A students in college, whose cars have been searched 3 or 4 times while they come home from Thanksgiving and so forth. This is a problem.
And we pay, and what we've got to say is we pay these cops salaries, and we want them to uphold the law in our community just like in the other community. We understand we have problems, but we pay your salary, and we've got to, that's why Black Lives Matter, and y'all got to emphasize that, and we're not going to take this anymore.
Yes. And you know what else we don't like? I don't like when my house is broken into. I don't like when my car is stolen. I don't like when things are done in a bad way and unlawful. Whereas sometimes I think there's this perception that somehow we are more lenient on criminality.
No, we're not. We just want the punishment to fit the crime. We want you to harass the people who are breaking the law. We want to put people in jail who we're afraid of and scared of, but not people we don't like. And see, our criminal justice system has become one where we put people in jail that we don't like. And the masses don't like certain people, so they get put in jail. You're not putting, and that's why we don't have any space in jail for the people we're afraid of, like the jackers and the robbers. We don't have space for them because we got it full of dope addicts who couldn't afford to get treatment, and they're just dope addicts. There are dope addicts and dope sellers and dope users who never carry weapons. You know that, Danny, from the street you in. There are people who just not gun people. Should they really be in prison? Should we be paying $50,000 a year to incarcerate people who wouldn't hurt anybody? Because they don't have prescription drugs and they can't go to a big time. I've had girlfriends, white girlfriends, who I've prayed with for years hoping their kids made it through high school in the Woodlands. And they went to rehab after rehab after rehab till they made it. But those mothers were never worried. They were worried their kids were killing each other on drugs, but they weren't worried about them going to jail. Maybe in the back of their head, but they knew generally that wasn't going to happen. They were just going to get a ticket when they got stopped. They weren't going to be treated like the clients that they represent. But our people know that even if a friend leaves something in the car, you're going to be called for it. And that's not the system we want. And somehow you guys have got to put that in a platform to where, like, what I'm frustrated, I liked the mayor. I don't care about people's sexual preferences. That's not my issue. I think it's hard enough to live as a human being in this life. You should be who you love. You know, if you told me you loved a man, I'll be in your wedding. I'm good. But I'm just saying, a lot of people don't like the mayor. But and so I didn't dislike her for that. But what I did get frustrated with her about is her apathy with these black shootings. I mean, I am so disappointed in the mayor, and that's why every time I meet with groups or on my show, I talk about this 2015 election because it's going to be Adrian Garcia is probably going to be running. He can't say he's running and keep his job, okay? So he's probably going to be running. We have, and see, you know, and we're going to have 2 or 3 city council persons from the more white districts. We're going to have some from the black districts. So I need y'all to form these 10 questions with subtopics that you know, and on your websites, I know we got these callers holding. On your websites, we've got to put these issues out there so that people can come to it, so they can be educated in voting. Because we got to educate through these websites and Facebook and Twitter when we get this
Keep
platform.
the conversation going.
And Vivian, what about this though?
Hold on, callers. I'm coming to you.
The system has been like that. We've been voting people into office and hoping that the system would change, and it hasn't.
But we need to do like the Tea Party. We need to vote some just outsiders in.
I agree.
And that's true. But there's also has to be outside pressure that can be applied as well, that this problem can be solved from a kind of a multi-directional avenue.
The feds have got to help. The feds have always been who help black people. If we don't have, the feds need to do the internal affairs. The feds need to look at police shootings. It needs to be an independent body. Federal judges are appointed for life. They don't run like these other, like state judges. Federal prosecutors are appointed by the president and voted in by the Senate and the Congress. And so it has to be federal. And when we talk about the Citizen Review Board, guys, y'all have got to include minority police or police who want to retaliate on other police have to be protected. Because, see, a lot of police know what's going on, but because
like
of that, they got to be like almost like a Crime Stoppers for them, to where they can blow the whistle on their brethren who are low down. Okay, because
without repercussions.
Without repercussions. And see, right now they have them. And I've had some on my show. I've had cops on my show who've been retaliated against because they've told it. Let's take a few calls. Caller, thank you. Sorry for our excitement tonight and not letting you talk, but caller, you're on.
Well, that's all right, Ms. King. It's a very interesting program that I listen to every Wednesday.
Thank you.
I have a question in regards to people that are incarcerated and then that are released because over crimes that you were talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is, my daughter was sexually assaulted 3 years ago. Okay, and the guy that did it, okay, he was incarcerated. This last September, he was brought to trial, and all of a sudden, he got a slap on the wrist. By a slap on the wrist, just like when I tell my granddaughter, go stand in the corner. He got a 2 year.
How many?
A few. 2 years.
Oh, yeah, that's unusual. I don't mean to be racist, but was he a white guy?
He was a illegal immigrant.
Hispanic
that had been deported twice, and this time, when he's released, he's supposed to be deported again. But knowing that these people have ways of getting back in this, here.
Right. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, and this is where the system fails us a lot of times.
I know the system failed because at DA downtown, myself and my daughter, we were on the assumption that this guy was going to get at least 5 years.
Okay, and that is an interesting story. Now, would you be interested in telling that story on my show so we could spend more time on it?
Sure.
Okay. Well, can you call me?
Yeah.
Okay. Call me and we'll schedule a time and we can delve all night into what happens for an hour on that. Just call me 713-222-2019, or you can get your granddaughter to Google me, Vivian King, and my number will come up. Call me and let's talk about that story all night, because we can't solve it in the next 5 minutes. Okay?
Right.
I appreciate you watching. Thank you for calling.
Right.
Y'all get ready for your last closing statements, a minute apiece, please. Do I have any more calls, Mark? Okay, thank you. All right, we haven't heard much from Cedric, so I'm going to go in backwards order. I'm going to let Cedric talk, then Danny, and then I'll stop with Durrell. So, Cedric, this hour goes fast.
It does go fast, very much so.
Even without commercials. So, talk to me. Just vent and conclude for tonight.
Well, Black Lives Matter, and unapologetically. And so in order for us to get to that point, it's a systemic problem that needs to be addressed from, I always kind of come from the standpoint of implicit association and cultural competency. Regardless of who we elect in, we should have a system in place where police officers go through a training program, just like medical personnel does, whether it's, CME, it's a CLE for officers, where there's measurables in knowing that they are improving in racial profiling and not being so
community involvement,
community policing, whatever those measurables are, we need to put those in place, because I was in a conversation with a police officer, and I was trying to explain to him what implicit association was and bias was. And he was saying, like, well, we don't use bias. We have no bias. I'm like, well, you are human. You are a human being, and humans inherently have a bias. It's the awareness of the bias that you need to be practicing and honing your skills on, because that is what you're using. He goes, well, you know, sometimes we arrest white people in black communities. And I'm saying to myself, but that's profiling.
That's
you. And he's like, well, we criminal profile. I'm like, well, I don't know what your criminal profile is and how you're trying to parse words. The bottom line is that there is an issue, and it needs to be addressed. And I think there are ways in which we can improve that. Much like things are done from a cultural competency standpoint in medicine, where we're trying to break down the disparities, we need to do the same thing when it comes to policing. They both deal with lives being lost. And unfortunately, in the policing, you have somebody that has a bullet that can kill you and can become a hashtag.
Right.
And respectability politics has nothing to do with that. What does that mean? I'm a doctor. I'm accomplished, I'm degreed, I'm tall, I'm a male. I have a lot of privileges. I have a country club membership and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if I'm driving at 5:30 in the morning trying to get to the office and I get stopped by a cop, I'm scared and hesitant because I don't know why he's or she is stopping
And
me.
how far they're going to go.
And how far they're going to go. And is this where I lose my life potentially? And that is a problem.
Or your freedom for the night. I mean, who wants to go to jail because
it's real.
it should just be a traffic ticket?
And so when you have an officer that says, well, when I drive my car in the neighborhood and they see me and I get pulled over and I think it's okay for that to happen, I say, no, it's not okay. Because you're saying the reason why you get stopped is because now they know who owns my car. So if somebody else is driving it, then they'll know it's a criminal. Well, your 14-year-old son is about to get his license and he's going to drive your car and look unfamiliar to whoever's been pulling you over. And you're telling me it's okay for him to get stopped?
Right.
It's ludicrous.
Right. Right.
So we are doing some things at Houston Justice Coalition specifically, behind the scenes, meeting with people, and we're doing things as far as protests and forums and so forth. But we're going to be on top of this, and we're not going anywhere.
Yay! I like it. I'm excited about it. Danny, say your closing remarks.
Of course, you know I work with restorative justice, and my platform, my message is always going to be geared to people our returning citizens just coming out of prison. And we want to change the language and how we view them. And one thing that we realize that our country houses more citizens, put more people in prison than any other country on earth. And right now, currently, it's probably about 2.5 million adults locked up in prison. And a great deal of proportion of those, disproportionate, are black males. And they once built prisons to punish people, but today's prisons are built for profits. And more of this conversation is being had, more of the information out, because a lot of people just sit at home thinking that the people who are in prison are there because they deserve to go to prison.
Right.
But they don't realize that people are being put in prison because they create jobs for people to watch them in prison.
And we've already talked about that in the show. We want them to do other things with that money. Like they can be making a tire factory where people work in that little small town, not just work at the prison. They can be actually doing some work. We can produce something beside prisoners.
Those people.
Let me let you, we don't have much time. We're out of time, really, but let me let you close up,
Okay,
Durrell.
very briefly, I want everyone at home to visit HoustonJustice.org. There are 3 things that we're working on. 1, the body cam policy. 2, we want a citizens review board. 3, we want grand jury diversity. So visit HoustonJustice.org. And thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah,
for all the
thank
work
you.
that do.
And on the community policing, the way I want to wrap this up is we need community policing now. That's something we can do now. It's cheap, it's inexpensive. We want to know the police in our neighborhood. We want to help the police in our neighborhood. If there's someone breaking in Third Ward where I live, I want to know who it is. If I see them walking around the neighborhood, I want to be able to call the police in the neighborhood. You need to know, again, who the good kids are, who the bad kids are, so we can help the bad kids, assist them, the good kids, so you can assist them also. We need to trust the police so that we can assist you in doing your job. But you got to treat us fairly, and you got to treat us like our lives matter. Your life matters as a police officer. Our lives matter too. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King, and we'll be here next week. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate